she didn't zoom in. She didn't have us pinned, so all she saw was like the crack in between the couch. She couldn't actually see either of us because it was so zoomed into the middle.
Oh man, yeah, that would be an awkward conversation if you not.
Just the whole time. I couldn't see you guys. Nice crack.
It's like a phone call back in the day, you know. We used to do that. We used to just sit on the phone for hours.
Do you remember like just having the I don't know if you ever did this, but like the ringtones? I couldn't buy like ringtones, so I would record songs and you'd get like a 20-minute clip that was way too fucking loud and choppy.
Uh-huh.
I love when people would do the answer message and they would like put their name in. You know, they walk up. You see those on Instagram all the time. The reels where people are recording the music. And they're like, "What's up? Yo, it's Steve. Call me back."
Well, and I feel like too, I mean, so like my voicemail, I don't have a pre-recorded voicemail. It's the generic whatever came with my iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure my voice box, like, or my mailbox is always full.
You don't have any control over your notifications, Greg. You've got how many unread text messages? Can you show?
So
are you able to show?
Okay.
Text messages, phone calls, and emails you have?
I don't know. You probably won't be able to see it. I have
398 text messages. Jesus Christ!
How many phone calls?
27 phone calls.
And then the email one is kind of like
is that
2000. That's
assume is that really actually 2000 or does it just max? Does it max at 2000?
I don't know. So okay, email though I feel like is high for everyone.
Yeah, I'm
right.
5'10".
I'll agree. Yeah.
The text message, I'm just a piece of shit in terms of actually responding to.
Motherfucker ain't getting back to nobody.
Yeah, right. So, Jason, you said something interesting on in Instagram, and you said that I look familiar. Like, do I know you from from somewhere? And so I mentioned the Grange, right?
Yeah, Harmony Grange.
Right, like, so would that be it? I mean, that was so long ago.
Honestly, like I said, I am awful with names. I'm awful with names. I'm awful with dates. For some reason, I have a really good memory when it comes to faces. Okay. So, like, if I see somebody, like, and more so, I'll have that uncomfortable feeling, like, I think I'm supposed to know who this person is. And then I start having the anxiety of like, wow, what a crappy guy I am that I don't remember this person. I know I'm supposed to know them. And then they'll be like, I have no idea who you are. But who knows? You know, maybe we did meet. I have a feeling we had to have seen each other at the Grange at one of those shows.
So, I mean, you guys used to play at the Grange. I mean, it was pretty often, right? Like, I swear I definitely saw Just Surrender at the Grange like a good bit.
Oh yeah, I mean we played there with Houston Calls, we played there with Valencia, we played there on a couple of our first smaller tours with like My American Heart, probably All Rights Reserve, I would imagine. So like yeah, all those Jersey bands back in the day.
My American Heart, man, they were my shit. They were so fucking good.
They still are. If you listen to Hiding Inside the Horrible Weather, like that record is still fantastic.
It is good. Eric, are you a big fan of
Oh yeah, you know, this was not my scene.
Yeah, Eric was not.
but it was my wife's scene. So when I first met her, she had a whole, the CD book of all the CDs, and you'd pop them in your car CD player. Yeah. And I remember her having a Valencia CD. That name sticks out. All the rest of these are foreign to me.
Dude, Valencia was the shit too.
Yeah,
they were great, dude. Like all those bands, and Delaware, we don't really have. I mean, the Grange the Harmony Grange is still there. Are you local or are you?
I now live in outside of Philadelphia. I moved to the Philly area like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Okay. But I was from upstate New York.
Right,
like
right.
Dutchess County, New York.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So the Grange is still there, but I think they got shut down because they didn't have like the bathroom situation was sketchy or something, and so yeah, it's not a thing anymore. But now all the bands that come through Delaware, they go through the World Cafe, I think, or like they're in Wilmington. The Queen. Yes.
Yeah, the Queen. There's a lot of bands that play down at the Rusty Rudder in Dewey.
Oh okay. Yeah. Yeah. What's the other one? I just saw Taking Back Sunday. Was that at the?
That was probably.
I was at a Taking Back Sunday show in Dewey this summer.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
It was that like kind of indoor outdoor place
with Citizen.
Citizen, and they were fantastic.
Yeah.
They
okay.
were so good. Yeah, I was at that show. That's hilarious.
Okay.
My parents have a place. My parents have a place in Lewis. They just moved there a couple years ago, so we go down every once in a while.
So my mom also lives in Lewis. So like that. Okay, all right.
Oh man,
do you guys have the same mom?
Yeah, are we brothers?
Are we?
Yes. So that makes sense. I mean, I was there with my wife and my sister, and we like Ubered from my mom's house because it was all of 5 minutes away.
Yeah.
So that's okay. All right.
Wow.
Also, good luck parking in Dewey. I'll be there actually next weekend. They do the grand opening for Starboard.
Oh God!
It's like St. Patty's Day weekend. I know it's going to be mob.
That's
going to be a whole bunch of people that are way younger than me, getting their faces blasted off with alcohol, and I'll be right there with them, trying to keep up.
There you go. I'm going down for what is it? Our spring break is like around what is it? Easter week.
Okay,
I'll be going down there. Yeah, and we go down there in the weekends in the summer, so we'll have to touch base after this.
Yeah, right. So
Sure.
do you like Rehoboth? Is that kind of
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll go. The kids are still young. We have 3 and 5, so we don't go to the beach often. If we do, it's usually up to Lewis. But we'll go down to the boardwalk and stuff.
Yep.
And get pizza and ice cream.
Thrashers,
some core. So okay, have you been to Nicola Pizzeria? In Lewis.
I haven't been there. I've gotten takeout from there at my parents, but not the the one up in Lewis.
Yeah. So
gotta get the Nicoboli with everything.
Nicoboli. Yeah, man.
Fish. No, thank you on the anchovies. I did it one time with anchovies. It's so overpowering.
Yeah.
So
it's tough for me having the pizza conversation ever.
Okay.
I mean, I grew up upstate, but we still took our pizza very seriously.
Yeah.
And it's just a completely different flavor.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
It's a different thing altogether.
Yeah, no, so the sweet sauce, I'm just not a fan of the sweet sauce. Well,
And I mean, you mentioned Grotto. I feel like did Dave Portnoy just come through and go to Grotto and it was like, this is
Delaware
like
pizza. He said, "Oh, this is Delaware pizza."
I mean,
Tracks.
it is. Yeah, you know what you're getting when you get Grotto pizza. It's good when you're drinking and you need a little something.
It does the job.
It does.
My problem was the first time I ever had it, my wife's family grew up going down the shore down that way, and they loved grottos. Like it was like, oh, we're gonna get grottos on the way home. It's gonna be awesome. And I remember being like, oh, this sounds like an experience. I'm intrigued. Let's try. And then I tried it, and I was like, okay. Yeah, that is pizza. I agree.
I mean, I would say it's definitely better than Domino's and Papa John's.
Yeah,
it's a step above, but
different category. I put them in a completely different category.
Yeah,
you know where I stand on pizza, Greg. It's really hard to mess up a piece of pizza. Dough plus cheese plus sauce is a great thing.
Oh.
Man, it's so good. Like it's just good, right? But then there's some that are way better than others.
I agree with that. I think there's no bad pizza, but there is really good pizza, and I wouldn't put Grottos in that category.
I would put we have a lot of what are those Joe Corby's pizzas in the fucking freezer.
Damn it, we just finished ours actually.
Dude, now if I think those pizzas are like bottom tier,
sure,
in terms of
like the Elios.
Okay, well, hold on now.
No, shut up, Greg. Stop. You cannot put Elios.
or like
again, we're talking different categories, though.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
How about nostalgia factor?
Yeah, Elio's not as good as Totino's pizza rolls.
Totino's pizza rolls are the shit, but like that's not pizza.
Yeah,
it's got
the
word pizza. It's got the word
snack
pizza in it.
But like, there's a hot pocket isn't pizza, right?
Yeah, no.
You know, it just
is it a stromboli?
It's like calling a hot dog a sandwich, right?
It's got
you guys
bread.
See that thing where everything is either a soup, a salad, or a sandwich? Is that what it is? and they say if it can have two pieces of bread, or you could fold the bread over, like a taco is a sandwich, a hot dog would be a sandwich,
and a pizza would be a sandwich as well. Then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got dough, and you could fold it over. There's a whole, I forget exactly what it is. I think salads or casseroles. Like everything falls in this. It's very generalized, and yeah, I think somebody just got real bored and wanted to do some nerdy shit with food.
You know what baffles me? We DoorDash dinner tonight, right before this, and the prices on fucking DoorDash are so ridiculously high. I mean, it's got to be like 50% more than just going and picking it up, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
And I feel like that's everywhere. You know,
what is your time worth? You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What is that? Your peace of mind of just like, I don't feel like leaving the house. I don't feel like getting a toddler into a car seat and driving and trying to figure out an iPad while I'm driving so that they can be entertained. And no, I'll just order.
Greg, what was my thing for a while? We'd be playing games real late at night, and I would always be like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. And I would just be fidgeting around on the app, building a Wawa hoagie. And then I'd get to the end, and I'd say, oh, a bag of chips. I'd look at it. It would be like $24 for a hoagie, like not even the large hoagie, bag of chips, and like a drink. I said, there's no way. And I would always just cancel it out.
Well, because they get you you get the surcharge, you have the tip. You get the like the dasher fee. Dude, it adds up so fast.
No, it really is. It's ridiculous.
But there's this place, I don't know if you have it around you, called Naz's Halal. And they always have a like get 20% off or buy one, like a BOGO, buy one, get one, free. So it's still worth it, but you're still spending like $30-$40 for two people. It's still expensive. Oh, yeah.
You gotta start home cooking, Greg.
Yeah, well,
or just go there.
Yeah, right.
That's our weekend thing now. Is we have a couple of places in town that we frequent, and it's we know Sunday kids eat free at the one place. That is fantastic. If we're not drinking and we go for lunch or something, like we can get out of there with a $45 tab for the whole family and be home with leftovers. It is. Yeah, you got to find those go-to spots, I think.
The go-to spots, and you can't do the appetizers, and you can't do the alcoholic beverages, because as soon as you factor those in, woo! Mm-hmm. I mean, we went to the Christiana Mall, and we went to the Cheesecake Factory, and it was like $150 for the four of us. So my wife and we have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and like they still got kids meals, and the kids meals were still like $30, $25. Like it's ridiculous.
You know what the Christiana Mall just got? PF Chang's.
PF Chang's.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm
ready for it. I want to go. I've been to one time. It was pretty good.
I've never been to a PF Chang's.
I don't know that I have either.
I mean, isn't it it's just sit down Chinese food, right?
It is. Upscale, sure.
So Jason, you're a teacher.
Yeah. Yep. I know big change from probably where you saw me in 2005, but
yeah. So I'm curious, like, is that something that you always wanted to do, or how did that career path happen?
So I was growing up. My mom worked at our church, and she was like the religious education coordinator. So she was like the principal of our CCD class. So I would go every week with her and just help set up and make copies, and did like some of the behind the scenes teacher stuff. That it was always like the fun stuff for me when I was a kid. So I kind of. That was always in my the back of my mind, like, oh, I kind of know some stuff about that. She was more managing, a team of people, so it was different. But and then I did summer camps and stuff when I was a kid. I would help out at summer camps and things like that. But I really, during the period where we were in the band, I never thought about it. Not once did I think like, oh, I'm going to be a teacher. My sister's 5 years older than me. And she had kids like right after college. So I was still pretty young and far away from that in my life, but I loved being Uncle Jay. Like that was the best, was getting to go and visit and hang out with my niece and nephew. Yeah. And it was one of those things where like my dad, you know, I don't know if you've had this, but like if my dad makes a comment about something, sticks so much more with me than if anybody else says something to me. So he just in a passing comment would be like, "Man, you're really good with kids, you know?" And then just walk away. That's all it took. I was like,
Drop that.
yeah.
Well, I guess I know
You
what
know
I got
what?
to do for a living.
Yeah, I am good with kids. I should do this. Like, so it's one of those things. I don't know. You're always trying to make your dad proud, or you're always trying to find that relationship in some way. So I think that was kind of it.
What grade do you teach?
First grade.
First grade. You are a hero, a savior.
It tests the patience. I will say that.
I'm sure. I love my kids.
Yeah.
That might be where that ends. I could not do the same thing, and I appreciate all my kids' teachers so much. That is a I'd hope not a thankless job, but it could use more.
No, and you know, nobody gets into teaching to be like, I'm going to make a bunch of money. I'm doing this because I'm going to be set. This is great. Like, I never once thought about that. Like, you do think about the retirement being nice and, you know, the benefits being good, things like that. But no, I knew what I was getting into, and I just wanted to. Honestly, I when I was in Philadelphia, my wife's best friend's mom owns a company called Science Explorers, and they do like after school programs for kids. And I started doing science camps just like after school and to make some money. And it was just so fun. Like it was really, because again, you're there for a limited amount of time. You're engaging with the kids in something that they never get to do. They're having a great time, a blast. And then you get to give them back at the end. You're like, wow, this was a lot of fun. Okay, I'm going to clean up. You guys get out of here. Yeah. So I feel like in my mind, I was like, yeah, this is what it's going to be every day. I'm going to get to have fun with kids, and then they're going to leave and it's going to be great. And then, you know, you have your own kids and then you
they
clock out and you come home and you're just like, oh, I'm still doing this.
Still doing it.
I've got 5 more hours before bed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, like, so my wife teaches 8th grade now, and she taught 9th grade for years before that. And she said the older kids, yeah, they're easier. I can like,
oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where I guess like with younger kids, I mean, there are different expectations, you know, just because of the ages. So I think with the older kids, it's a little bit easier. But I don't know if you've experienced this, but she really said that after like the pandemic and after COVID, education as a whole has really just kind of changed. You know, the way that it looks, how it goes.
Yeah, I think too. Like we're still playing catch up. I feel like from some of the deficits these kids have from being online for a year, some of them a year and a half. My son, he's 5. He was a COVID baby. Like we didn't, you know, when we saw people until he was about 3, it was, you know, or 2.5. It was in our yard, and it was socially distanced in our yard, like playing. Like he didn't get those same experiences of getting to know kids one-on-one in a school setting. I feel like we're still playing catch up with a lot of that. Yeah, and I don't know. A lot of data driven education has come after that because we're trying to make sure they're catching up, and we're you know, just focusing so much on that you lose sight of some of the other more fun things in the classroom. Yeah, it's definitely changed.
My son was entering kindergarten the year, I guess, in 2020, yeah, when it happened. So we had it like, oh, okay, well, he's going to bring home his Chromebook. And thankfully, my wife worked from home, so she was able to, corral, sort of, like she was working, right? But the teacher, and I'd be home every once in a while. I was pretty flexible in my job, and I would just hear the teacher go, all right, we're going to turn it off for 45 minutes. And then he would just be done, like just sitting there as a kindergartner, like, all right, I'm ready to do something fun. And we were like, oh, dude, we're working. This is so weird. So I've always thought about what you were saying, though, the implications, like what happened. I think he's good now. It's been so long now. I hope that it's not like, I mean, we'll never know, I guess, really what life would have been like if that had never happened.
Yeah, they're so resilient and malleable at that age. I mean, they're fine. They're gonna be fine. Everyone's gonna be fine. But from an education standpoint, we were so, I don't know, like all the data coming back was just like, wow, this is awful. Like these kids are coming in not knowing their letter sounds in first grade, and they're supposed to be reading when they get to us. So now we're playing catch up the entire year, trying to get them ready for second grade so that they're not in this huge deficit when we put them into second grade. So then they start falling behind even more. I don't know. It was tough. I don't recommend it for anybody. If you don't live through a pandemic and have to teach through it. That's what I'll say.
It's so crazy though, because it feels like it was a lifetime ago. It just and it wasn't. It was. I mean, but 5 years is still a long time. And I remember Eric and I were in California. So I had 2 free plane tickets in like 2019, and my wife was super pregnant, so she couldn't use them. And so Eric and I flew out to Cali for 3 days, and all you would hear, COVID-19 and it might come to the States, but probably not. And then my daughter was born February 29th, 2020, and we were in the hospital, and they were like, we don't know what's happening, but it's about to get really chaotic and bad.
I remember we came to visit you, and we had to this was the first time that I had been in a hospital while this was happening, and we were hand sanitizing, checking in, it was super documented and clean, and they were spraying everything down and wiping everything down. It was eerie. And then 2 weeks later, shoot, we're coming up on it, right?
The world, yeah. It was
like March 17th or something.
Yeah.
I remember.
What, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know. So it felt like a lifetime ago, and it felt like it took a whole lifetime.
I can't even imagine what it was like now, too. Like it's shocking. And so much has changed. Some stuff for the better, like pulling up to Target and having them bring your bags to your car.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll sign up for that for the rest of my life. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I feel like that aspect is amazing. So it wasn't all bad.
Our generation too, being the ones that grew up online and are terrible in social situations and have all this social anxiety. At the first little bit of COVID, I was like, this is not so bad. Yeah, this is not so bad.
And so, I don't know if you're a gamer, but Eric and I are, and around that time, the Call of Duty Warzone just dropped. So, we were playing that nonstop
all the time. Too much.
I wish I was. I was a big PlayStation 2 guy back in the day.
Okay.
This was way back. And when my wife and I first met, it was kind of like, you're not gonna do that all day. And I was like, yeah. And at the time, I was just getting out of the band, and I didn't have a job, so I didn't have a leg to stand on to be like, what? Come on, it's no big deal. So yeah, I kind of just had to concede, and it's fine.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's for the better now. But
I am curious though. So when you're obviously you were in the band and you were younger, right? How old were you when all that happened and your band started?
So we were writing, recording, and releasing songs from the age of 14, 15. But as Just Surrender, we changed our name to Just Surrender my senior year of high school.
Okay.
So that first record came out, I think, the year after, right after graduation. So we had an EP that we self-released under the name of Second Chance when I was a senior in high school. And we sold 5,000 copies of it ourselves.
Wow. Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. Right. They're $5 a pop, but it was enough to pay for the van and to get us touring and get everything started. So we were like, oh man, this is happening. This is real. Still in high school. I hadn't even taken my my Regents exam, the end of the year exams yet in New York. And we got offered a tour with a friend's band, Autopilot Off, who we were big fans of at the time. And their guitarist ended up becoming our manager. So I left 2 weeks before graduation to drive out to Milwaukee in high school and do a week and a half long tour back to New York. So being, and I turned 18 that May. So like I was just 18 and on tour with my best friends in a van.
Living the dream, man.
That's awesome. It was amazing. It was really like I wouldn't trade it for anything. The first 5 years or so was really, really great. Yeah.
I remember well, If These Streets Could Talk, right? Was that
That was the first record, yeah. And that was that was the baby because we had years to work on that. So
So there is a of all we know of what
of
right.
All we've known?
It may have been the song that I was listening to when I became a man.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Is this romantic?
Wow.
Is this a romantic song?
I don't know. And
Does being on this interview kind of like hearing my voice, does that do anything for you?
This is good stuff. Yeah, right.
You're gonna have to run that robe through the laundry.
Yeah. You can't see my bottom half. But I mean, honestly,
your robe just got a lot tighter.
So I think MySpace was still super relevant when that album dropped, and I remember like cycling through so there were two bands that I had playing heavily on my MySpace, Just Surrender and The Prize Fight. And so I used to just rotate like every song, because MySpace used to do this thing where you could like find profiles that had the songs uploaded, so then you could upload songs,
share it to your page. Yep.
And so I would just go through and I would just put these songs on, and like that album was like my freshman year. So that and June, there were two. So there were two albums, and those were the two that got me through my fucking freshman year of high school.
Oh wow. So do you mind asking how old are you? Are you 36?
I am 33.
33. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Greg's a baby.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm 91. I had to think about that. Now I'm at that.
No.
The math to see how old I am.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And so that music, like, or that album, I still listen to that album regularly because it's so fucking good.
I appreciate that. I think too, like it probably holds a nostalgic, spot in your heart for that's the age, right? Like,
oh yeah,
I still to this day, 9th and 10th grade, where I found those bands that to this day I'll put on, like when I'm in a mood or when I just need to turn things around, I'll put one of those records on where I'm like, oh yes, this does it for me still. I don't know why, it just always will be the one, Got a couple of those.
We were talking with Puyan of Scary Kids, and he was saying
toured with
like,
them too. Yeah.
Did you guys?
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's a good guy.
Yeah, he was such a friendly dude, and like he's real big into VR and like he showed us his guitar, and he was just a cool dude. But he was saying that like he's glad that it's not cringy to listen to that music. He was like, there was that period where it was kind of like cringy to like even talk about that, that era of music, and now people are like, no, this is the shit.
There's
man.
A comeback. There's a comeback for sure. Like reunion tours and all that.
Oh yeah.
What's what were we talking about it? The who's that? Matt Cutshaw.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Not
dead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it really was for a while. I agree that there was a period where it was. I didn't even want to tell people I was in a band, because if they looked it up, they'd be like, what is this? Like the sing screamy stuff, like it's. I mean, I still love it, but like you give a country fan that record and be like, oh, this is what I used to do. They'll be like,
what
is this?
What is like, no, this is really good.
Listen to this. Like, trust me, there was a niche little group that really liked this.
Yeah, no, it was good stuff. Do you still like? Is Just Surrender still a thing, or are you guys not?
So we never broke up. Like we've never broken up. Dan and I, the other singer, we're always in the band the whole time, through the different iterations and people coming and going. Jolly, our last guitarist, still plays with us whenever we, do a reunion or shows like that. Steve, our drummer, the original drummer, he still will play with us when he can if we do reunion stuff. So it's really just, it became too difficult to keep playing shows, you know? And so we never broke up. We were just like, we're going to take a break for a while. And then, you know, we went into the studio and recorded and never released it. Those songs ended up coming out last year, but we recorded those like 6 years ago. So we had always planned on, you know, we'll do stuff. It's just not going to be as frequent. We're not going to tour anymore, but we're still going to write songs. We're still going to be Just Surrender. And then life just happens, you know?
And I can only imagine the cost. And like, I feel like, you know, you don't really think about like how expensive life is, one, but then to like tour and play shows and like the cost associated with that, I'm sure is fucking just ridiculous too.
Yeah, we were right on the other side of when records stopped selling. So, I mean, when we first started touring, like I said, like when we first put out our first EP, we sold 5,000 copies ourselves, shipping them in the mail, selling them at shows over a couple of months. So people were still buying physical products. A couple months later, like, I mean, everything was everywhere to be pirated. You could, you know, Kaza and Morpheus and all those. You could just LimeWire, yeah. And I mean, I was doing that during high school, but you know, I still would go to the show and buy a shirt or a CD from a band. But if you weren't touring, there was no way to make money, and even the money that we were making was such a small amount that, you know, I ended up, after about 5 years, I had spent all my savings. I was living at our drummer's parents' house. He had a girlfriend in Albany at college, so he would leave, and I didn't have a car. So I'd be stuck in between at tours at my drummer's parents' house with no car.
Oh, no.
Just sitting around, like, on my computer, writing songs. Man, is this what it's going to be? Like, is this my life? And then, like, it was a rough period. And that was like right before I ended up meeting my now wife, who she lived in Philadelphia. So I would just like walk to the train station, which was like a mile from our drummer's house, get on the train, go to New York City, take a mega bus to Philadelphia, hang out with people that I knew in Philly, met my girlfriend there at the time, my wife now, and just started doing that like as often as I could afford.
So is that like kind of is merch really like how bands get from A to B if they're not backed by like a multi, $1 million label?
Yeah, that is, I mean, yes, that is the way that bands are making their money. And with the way ticket sales are nowadays, even that is, you have to be a very big band and playing, either arenas or larger cap venues, 3,000 cap venues, to be making a decent living off of, touring. It's not the same as it used to be. We used to, I mean, and inflation has changed everything as well. We used to make $15 a day. I would get $10 a day for food, and then get to the venue, they'd give us another $5 or $10 again, and I could eat all my meals, buy cigarettes and drinks, like whatever I needed for the day. Sure. I could live off of that $15, and where I was staying was covered for me. So, whether it be a hotel or a house party or wherever we were ending up that night, everything was reasonably cheap. So if we only made $200 at the show, as long as we had gas money to get to the next show, it was fine, But that gets old after 3-4 years of doing that. And we did have waves, where periods where we were larger and we were playing on awesome tours. We met some incredible people. We got to play with some incredible bands. Like I got to go to the UK with The Audition, and another tour with My American Heart in the UK. Like where like every night we'd play an opener set, which was great because it was short, and then I'd get to go and like drink beers and watch some of my favorite bands every night in another country. Like it was incredible. It was great. But then I'd get home, go back on my drummer's parents' couch, be like, all right, when are we getting out of here again?
Back to reality, man. But like I'll tell you, when I was at the and you too, when we were at the Taking Back Sunday show, I bought a Citizen shirt, and like the band, they were the ones hustling their shirts. Like they were the ones selling their merch.
Working the stand.
They were working the stands. So it makes you feel a little bit better too when you're buying something that's going to help you hopefully get to, you know, the next place.
Anybody listening who is a music fan, that's the best thing you could possibly do for these younger bands is if you can get out there and buy something directly from them. I mean, we don't buy music anymore. Nobody does. But if you can get out and buy a T-shirt or a sticker or anything, you know, the gas prices are insane right now. I can't imagine. I just can't imagine doing it right now. I cannot imagine doing it.
Well, you certainly couldn't do it and DoorDash any food that you were going to eat because, as we just said, you'd burn your whole stipend on one meal.
They don't even have dollar menus anymore.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
I mean, in my day, the dollar menu used to be $1.
You could get a McDouble for $1.
You sure
now
could.
they're like $3.49.
McDouble and a McChicken for like what $2.22 or something like that.
Yep.
Not and then anymore. I would have my $7.80 left for the rest of the day.
Yep.
Wait for dinner where I would do this same exact meal.
You know, it's fascinating though, because like you're on tour and you're eating, I mean, essentially like these kind of fast food meals all the time, right? So like, does it ever like take a toll on like, do you feel like shit, or is it just like, that's just what it is, you know?
Honestly, I think that was a huge part of it. The health and mental health, especially. That nobody talked about that. You know, it's become a more open and discussed thing now, and I love that because you know I would have never. I'm on medications. I'll say that. Like, I wish I was 20 years ago. If I wish somebody had told me that there were things that I could do that would help ease the stress and anxiety that I was going through every day. But yeah, I mean, your health. You're eating terrible food. You're drinking every night. You're sleeping, you know, you're getting this big dopamine rush on stage, but then you're depleted and you're feeling empty and drained after that. You wake up the next day really down, and then you're like, I'm going to eat some fast food to make me feel better. I'm going to drink again because that'll give me a little dopamine push before I get on stage. And then you keep doing that cycle over and over and over. And by the end of a month-long tour of doing that, you're just depleted and looking for any ways you can to feel good and happy. And you know, it was crummy. It was shitty, man.
Yeah,
really was.
I think you just basically said like this is how drugs work almost. Like if you just replace a lot of those things that you were doing with just drugs, like get the highs are high and then the lows are low. Wow, that's and
then when you're home, you're going through like the withdrawal of. I was getting attention. I was getting dopamine. I was getting, you know, all this positive praise when I was on tour. And then I was coming home and reality sets in and you're alone. You've got nobody. You're waiting to just get out again so you can get that high of being on stage and feeling seen and feeling important again. It was just a rough roller coaster. And I don't think a lot of people on the other side of it realize that that's what these kids were going through, because that's what we were. We were kids. With like all the bands that we're talking about, we were teenagers. We were 18 to in our early 20s, and we were in vans just going through life and with no bumpers, you know. And it was rough. It was rough.
It's fascinating that you say that. We were talking with Daniel Rinaldi from Bed Light for Blue Eyes, and he is a big advocate now for the mental health and like, you know, individuals who were, you know, kids in these bands and like kind of suppressing these feelings and kind of keeping it all bottled up. And now I think he's making a big push to work with them, you know, on some of those issues. Yeah, that just sounds fucking rough, man. I mean, because you go to a concert, Eric and I go to a show, whoever goes, they see we pay $20 and you see the band, you're like, wow, this is great. See ya, you know? Yeah. And then we get to go home and then, you know, you're on to the next.
I'm driving to a travel what do they call it? Like a road stop to take a shower in a truck stop.
Yeah.
And then laying back in the van to try and sleep while we drive 300 miles overnight. Like, yeah,
and then
it was
always you always
Life
hear
of a
like,
rock star.
well, you hear too, like, oh, all of our equipment got stolen. And it's like, yo, what the fuck? And then like people just jack the trailers. And it's like, that just, I don't know, man. Now I feel like the best way, if you want to be a musician, is TikTok, or, you know, just,
yeah. I wish I was literate in that stuff, because at least you have a way to access an audience, and you could do that from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to go anywhere, do anything, and millions of people could see you if your product is worth it. And I mean, there's a lot of great stuff out there.
Got to catch
I do need to put a caveat out there that it wasn't all bad. It
Sure.
was incredible. It was the best times of my life, but it was also the worst times of my life as well. You know, like there were really great things. I got to go with Yellow Card to Japan. Like I would have never gone to Japan, and I got the band to pay for me to travel to the other side of the world and watch one of my favorite bands play every night. That's incredible. I'll take that with me to the grave and be so proud that I got to have those experiences. So there was the really, really great parts. I made some incredible friends. It was just also very tough, and I don't think people talk about that side of it. So I'm glad that there's people like Rinaldi out there talking about it and, you know, bringing light to it.
I really enjoy the thought of you now teaching like first graders, and they have no idea. Like, I don't know. Do you ever tell them, yeah, I used to be in a rock band? Do you ever tell them anything like that?
So some of them, the parents will find out or like catch on to something. Like I have full sleeves, but I wear long sleeves all the time. Just, it's not like a rule in the school. It's just for me personally. I don't want to be that influence on the children that says, this is cool, you should do this. That's not for me to say. That's for the parents and you to have a discussion about when you're older, whatever. But so I cover them. But like, you know, reaching around, kids see stuff, and we make jokes about it now. Where somebody's like, "Mr. Maffucci, I saw your tattoo." I'm like, "You didn't see anything. You saw nothing." Right. But yeah, I mean, they'll find out about it, and like the parents are usually really cool about it. They're like, "You should bring your guitar in and play for the kids." Like, yeah, that would be great, but it's such a different skill set, and also like none of the topics I was covering are appropriate for 6-year-olds.
Right.
It's all very inappropriate to sing to children about. Like I said, there were times when, especially in the beginning with that first record, and again, we put a lot of work into that first record. We had years to write it. It was, I mean, this is the cliche of every band. Like, you have so much time to work on that first record. We probably wrote 30 songs and, you know, scrapped away different stuff, and we would play shows live and be like, oh, that didn't work out, let's scrap that song and write a new one, or keep that chorus that people seem to like and we'll rewrite the rest. We had this time to craft our perfect record in our minds when we were 18, you know. And then you go on tour and you're out on the road and they're like, hey, we need you to write another record and it needs to be out in a year, so you gotta do that while you're on the road, and we're going to give you a month at home to write and record it. It's like, yeah, that's not how it worked.
It's not going to be the same thing. You know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I do have to ask though, because I think this is interesting, and tell me if this is true or not. So you released the two songs, what, a couple years ago? Was it?
Yeah, it was last year, a little over a year ago, in October of 23. Would it have been October 23?
The artwork was done by Bobby.
Yeah.
So that's also fucking wild. I mean, it just, I guess.
Do you know him? Or
I do, yeah. So
cool.
like so Eric, if you don't know Bobby Calhoun, so he used to be in a band called Centerview. And Centerview was like, when I would go to the Grange, they were like the local band that we all wanted to be. Right? Like that was the fucking band. But he posted and he said, I can finally announce I did the artwork for the new Just Surrender release. So that's like I don't know. It's crazy how fucking small
world.
Yeah.
And I met him through Nick from Hit the Lights has a side project called Thief Club that's like one of his main projects now. We did a split with them. With him, I reached out and was like, "Hey, man, I'm in a newer band called With Abandon, and it's smaller. You know, we met a couple of years ago through one of the guys from the Scenic. I don't know if you know that band, but Frank, who played bass in a band called the Scenic, reached out to me and was like, "Hey, do you still sing? I remember you saying you were going to move to Philly. Did that ever happen?" Hadn't talked to him in 5 years. And I was like, "Yeah, I do actually still sing. I haven't played in a band in years, but you know, I've always thought about it." And he was like, "Hey, well, I'm in this band and we wrote a record and we just don't have anybody to sing on it." I was like, "Okay, well, send me the songs." And next thing you know, like I was like, "This is awesome. Like this is cool music. I really want to be a part of this." Ended up, you know, getting in with them, writing some songs. We did a record. We're now working on our second LP. We've put out a couple of singles, and we also did a split. And when we were putting a split together, I reached out to Nick because I knew he had Thief Club and was like, "Hey, would you want to do something together?" Ended up doing that. We got Marky from Glamour Kills to do the artwork for it, if you remember them from back in the day.
Yeah.
So he did that. And when I was talking to Nick, he was like, "Oh, my friend Bobby does all the artwork for my my songs that I release on Instagram, like all of the individual artwork for this stuff." And I was like, I really like your stuff. That's awesome. Yeah. And I had the idea for the Just Surrender, like Just Surrender's Not Dead or Not Dead Yet, and having it be like a zombie hand coming out of a grave. And I remember like being like, "Oh, there should be a stone that says like Just Surrender 2004 to 2020 or whatever it was." Like, you know, just went through the whole idea with him, and he was like, "Cool, I can do that." Drew it up for me and sent it over. I was like, "This is amazing."
It's so good.
I don't even think he charged. I don't even think he charged me. I think he was like, "Dude, just give me a shout out. I'm a big fan. I love." It's like, this is amazing. Like, but just a cool, like, artistic, like being able to reach out to somebody who's also an artist and be like, "I have this idea, and I know you're into this kind of stuff. Would you be interested in helping me out?" And he was totally on board and knocked it out of the park. I don't know. It was just fun. And that's what music has become to me now. It's like it's fun again. It's like being in the garage with my friends, yelling about stuff that is making me angry.
I agree, man. Like so I'm a guitar player and I stopped playing for years. And it was one of those things where I was just like, I don't like it anymore. And then actually when Eric and I started this podcast is what kind of got me back into it, because I was like, hey, I'm going to write our intro and I'm going to then write our new intro. And then it like got, you know, this idea in my head, like, hey, what if I write these songs and then like start to work with people that we're talking to, you know, and like just kind of collab with people. And so it re-sparked my interest. So like, I'm, you know, I don't know. I'm glad that, I don't know.
You can always find the magic again.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things. Like you said, I didn't want to go to shows. I didn't want to listen to music. Like I would just listen to podcasts in my car. I went through a whole period where I was just spent. I was over it. I wanted nothing to do with it. It was weird. Like you go from it being your life to I don't even want to be reminded of that. And then I had enough time away where I was like, maybe I'll give it a shot. And I remember the first time we got to practice, and there's this song, if you look up With Abandon, called Between the Devil and the Deep. And it's our biggest song. It was the first song I ever wrote with these guys. They were playing the music, and I started like just like freestyle stuff over it and came up with the melody for the chorus like the first night we jammed. And I remember being like, this is cool. Like, this is awesome. I haven't felt this creative in such a long time. It's making me feel like alive again. Like I'm creating again and bringing something into the universe. I don't know. It's corny, but it felt like good again. It felt like I was finally back where I was supposed to be.
You had all those creative juices bottled up and pent up for so long. You just, boom, you had it all at once.
Yeah, man. It's great too. Like I said, it's not work anymore. It's not feeding me. Like I don't need it to get those McChickens anymore.
Right. No,
I've got a career. I've got a life that's intrinsically, feeds me, and I love it. I love working with the kids. It's great. But also now I can do this for fun once a week. I drive an hour to hang out with my friends and play, and it's awesome.
Eric and I have this conversation all the time that, like, so we both work full-time jobs, and I always call this like our second full-time job, but this one is cool because we can do whatever we want. So, like, since we're not getting paid, the expectation is whatever we make it, and like that has been huge for us, because I feel like things start to get a little more challenging when you're relying on, I need this album in this, or I need you to put out X amount of videos in this amount of time. And
I sometimes fear, I love video games, right? Wouldn't it be my dream to play video games for a living? I hear people fall out of love with it. Kind of like if you hear a chef doesn't want to go home and cook a meal because they just spent all day cooking at work. So there's something to be said about getting paid for a thing that you love to do after so much time.
Or teaching children all day and then going home. I love my kids. I love my kids more than anything. All I've ever wanted was to be a dad. Like I love this part of my life, but it is tough sometimes.
You need a vacation every once in a while.
Yeah. Man.
Well, Jason, thank you for joining us, man. And I know it's kind of late, so thank you for bearing with us.
Not a problem, man.
And
appreciate it.
We'll have to catch up the next time you're in Delaware, man. I'm
absolutely
all the time, and so we'll have to touch base after this. And
sounds good, man. And let me know if you ever need a guest. You guys are scrambling on a Monday night. Give me a call.
Right on, man.
I'm right down the road. Hop back on again. We can talk Grubhub this time.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. How can people listen? Like, how can they check you out?
If you go on Spotify, With Abandon is on Spotify. I believe the website is With Abandon Rock, but you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, all of those with Abandon or With Abandon Rock for the handles. And we're going to be playing in Lancaster the 15th, I think, Saturday. A couple Saturdays coming up. So
okay, all right.
Free show too if anybody hears and wants to come out.
All right, right on.
Yeah, man.